And as a result of doing that, and as a result of the face-to-face professional development that we often provide, we've learned some things in terms of how you roll out these things to actually make sure that people participate. How many people have seen this before? Okay. All right, so for those of you who have, just allow me a few moments to get the others up to speed. So we've rolled out this program now with a number of different colleges, and we recognize that this program, just like any other professional development, oftentimes there's differences in who's going to participate, right? And the goal, of course, is to train as many people as possible so that we can really move forward a campus climate and culture. What we've come to recognize is there's two distinguishing factors between faculty members who will participate in this kind of PD or in any other kind of PD focused on underserved students and those who won't. And then there's another factor of those who are actually going to then engage in those practices. So two characteristics that we're keenly aware of. The first is faculty members who know what to do, right? There are faculty members who know what to do, and there's faculty members who don't know what to do, right? And so you'll see that on the top right hand, faculty members who know what to do, meaning they know those teaching and learning strategies that are important for men of color, for other underserved students, right? Or sometimes they don't. And then there's a willingness to actually then do it once you know that information, right? Because there's a lot of things that we know that we don't necessarily do, right? Like we have that knowledge, we have that expertise, but we're not actually employing it. And sometimes we're being defiant about not employing it, and we're talking about what that looks like as well. So we recognize that on any given campus, whenever we do this, or whenever even myself and Dr. Harris go and speak to a group of faculty, a group of administrators, there's different populations that are there who have different interests. So what do you think, for those of you who haven't seen this before, that we call those faculty members who know what to do and have a willingness to do it? Beautiful. We call them a choir. As long as we've been doing this, you're the first person to get it off the first bat. Typically, we hear champions, we hear advocates, we've heard people say unicorns because it doesn't happen as often as it should. We hear different things, okay? So there's the choir. These are people who know what to do. They know how to teach men of color. They are faculty members. Oftentimes they're engaged in equity efforts on their campus. They've went and they've taken the time to learn about how do you engage culturally relevant teaching, how do you employ collaborative learning, how do you do these things that are important for student success, and more importantly, they not only have that knowledge, but they engage that knowledge. They employ it in their practice. Those are people who are part of the choir. Now, if you go to a typical professional development training on any college campus, we're going to have a brown bag today on our campus, and it's going to focus on racial microaggressions, right? It's going to be at noon. Who's going to show up?
The choir.
The choir, right? Now, who did we want to show up? Probably people who weren't part of the choir, right? Now, that doesn't negate the importance of the choir being there, right? Because all of us have more to learn. All of us can continue to hone our practice and get better at what we're doing, all right? The second group are what we refer to as the allies, right? The allies, they don't necessarily know what to do, but if you show them, if you train them, if you provide them with additional resources, they'll do it, right? And oftentimes in many departments on any given campus, the choir, they know who the allies are because oftentimes they're their own allies, right? So what we want to do is then identify those allies and then bring them into the fold as well. Now, we also have to recognize that not everyone is going to have the same kind of motivation that we do in terms of supporting men of color or any other underserved student population, right? So that's these folks down here, all right? So the first group are those who don't know what to do, and it really doesn't matter because they were unwilling to do it anyways, right? We refer to these as the resistors, right? And there's two different types of resistors: passive resistors and active resistors. So let's start out with the passive resistors. Passive resistors, we refer to them as the don't know, don't care group, right? For them, they're not concerned about supporting issues for men of color. They're really not concerned with anything that deals with equity. They just want to stay out of it, right? If there's a working group meeting focused on men of color in San Diego, they're just not going to go. If there's a brown bag on their campus, they're just not going to go. If there's some sort of event that's taking place where they can learn something about this or resource that they've been given, they're just not going to participate in it. That's how they express their unwillingness to do it. They're not going to say anything, they're not going to make a fuss about it, but you're not going to see them there, right? Now, that represents a sizable population of many campuses, but there's also another population that's much more aggressive than that. And those are the active resistors. Active resistors actively resist. When they hear that there's a working group going on in San Diego, they say, why is our campus paying money for people to go to that? They hear that Frank and I are coming to campus to come talk about men of color. They say, why are we focused on men of color? Why aren't we focused on fill in the blank group? Isn't this reverse racism and discrimination, right? And these are things that we regularly hear. Now, with active resistors, because they're actively resisting, they also want others to join them. And oftentimes what we'll see is that they'll send out an email and encourage people, don't go, don't participate in this, because what you're doing is wrong, right? We don't believe in what you're doing. So it's really important for us to be cautious in terms of how we roll things out, because what we've seen too many times, and I'm sure you've all seen this, a really good effort, let's just talk about programs. How many great programs focused on men of color have died out because active resistors found out about it and destroyed it before it ever really got off the ground? It's no different than rolling out any professional development. We have to be thoughtful about it. And then the last group are those who are the defiant. The defiant, they know what to do. And typically, they'll do it with their small group of students. But typically, those students, they're not students who are our men of color, right? They're their pet students. So they know what it takes to support a student. They know how to make a student successful. They might have even been to some trainings, but they actively refuse. They're defiant in terms of employing those practices. Now, connected to M2C3, we have a practitioner experts panel who provides us with feedback on some of the different concepts and ideas and resources that we come up with. One of the things that we asked our practitioner experts, we sent them this taxonomy. We asked them, on your campus, right, what does this look like in terms of the percentage breakdown of each of these groups? Now, what percentage do you think are represented in the choir?
5%.
5%? 10%? 25%. 25%.
I mean, how would we really know that?
Well, so what we did was we wrote out an article that talked about what are some of the characteristics of each group, and so we gave that to them to help them determine on their campuses from their vantage point what that looks like. So that's how we came to inform them about what that process looks like. Now, but I think part of also what you're raising is it might look different on each campus. And I'll say this, the variation, I'm a researcher, the standard deviation was massive, right? So we see a lot of differences across each campus. This was what the average scores were. And we rounded them up just to make them a little bit more presentable. That's essentially what they were. 30% are part of the choir, 30% are our allies, 15% are passive resistors, 10% are active resistors, and 15% are defiant. Now again, the differences across each campus were pretty stark. But one thing that we recognize is this. Regardless of whether you have 15% of choir or 30% of choir, 30% or 20% for your allies, you have a group of folks who are probably interested in supporting this work. And if you're rolling out something and you're trying to create a movement on your campus to support these men, you start out with those folks who are part of your group, your coalition. This is coalition building, right? We get them, we bring them into the fold, and then we slowly work to reach these other groups over time. And we have a map that helps to lay out what that looks like. So the first thing that we like to tell our partners is you should employ the 3 E's when rolling out this program or any other professional development for men of color. 3 E's, empower, educate, and encourage, okay? So with the choir, our goal is to empower them, right? And you'll see that this is broken off on a one-year time frame because it's typically a one-year partnership. For the choir, you want them to get them involved within the first 1 to 2 months, and your job is to empower them with additional resources and trainings that can help them hone what they're doing and become better at understanding these strategies. And sometimes